All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back once again to the longest running show in the world about data. It's time for DM Radio. Yours truly, Eric Kavanagh here. And I've got one of my best buds in the industry on the call today. We're very excited about this. Eric Herzog, of course, of Infinidat. He is a remarkable guy. He's been in the industry a long time. He's seen the ups and downs and ins and outs and knows what's happening out there on the ground truth, if you will. And he recently wrote an article in Forbes, which is an excellent article. I encourage you to hop online and track it down. It says, "Don't pay the ransom demand after a ransomware attack. Cyber storage resilience to the rescue." And Eric, I'll throw it over to you here in just a second. The bad news is that cyber attacks are up 3,500% over the last 5 years, but the payments are going down, which tells me people are listening and they're doing smart things and they're not paying the ransomware. It's just like don't negotiate with terrorists. When you pay the ransomware, you're not only losing your money, but you're also feeding the monster that's going to come back and attack you next time, right?
Eric, absolutely. And thank you again for having us on DM Radio. We enjoy coming on several times. But yes, so cyber attacks are not going to stop. As you put it out, they're going up dramatically.
Right.
And they're spread across all industries, the global Fortune 500. So they leave no stone unturned, the cyber criminals. The key thing is payments are down, and people are stopping all of the regulatory agencies and, of course, the enforcement agencies all over the world are encouraging companies not to pay. That said, ransomware attacks can still cost billions, even though payment is down, between paying the ransom and then what it takes to resurrect the data if you don't pay, what it takes to put in preventive measures. For example, our InfiniSafe, which is our enterprise cyber storage resilience and cyber storage recovery software technology, which again helps you protect your most valuable entity in your corporation, your enterprise data.
Right. That's right. Well, and of course, this is nothing new, but I think AI is playing into this. I mean, you can now spin up very believable phishing attempts to get people to click on things, and even CEOs and even smart people who are trained who should not do that kind of thing still do it. They're getting very good at that stuff. Maybe if you could just kind of explain to us when you talk cyber resilience, you're thinking layers, you're thinking a tiered architecture essentially to stop this madness, to prevent the damage from happening. Talk to us about what goes into that.
Sure. Well, first of all, you have to realize that the bulk of your company data is sitting on your enterprise storage.
Hmm.
So at the CISO level, the CTO level, the CIO level, you need to realize that not incorporating cyber storage resilience and recovery into your strategy is leaving your corporate cyber security strategy short, right? They know where the data is. They're smart. Remember, this is not like an old mafia movie from the 1940s or 50s where, they're jumping out of the car with their machine guns. These are
Right.
technically sophisticated, often university educated, that somehow went down the wrong path. So now
Right.
they're criminals. So all the technology they learned in college, all the technology they've learned online, they use that now for evil. And so cyber attacks are not going to go away. The question isn't when, it's how often. And how are you going to respond to that? So incorporating enterprise cyber storage resilience and recovery into a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy. You want to protect the edge. You want to protect the servers. You want to protect the network. You want to train your employees. And you mentioned already, Eric, things like very sophisticated phishing events. But you also want to make sure that where the data sits, that most valuable asset in your company, is protected as well. Not everything around it, of course, but everything around it and including that data. And that data means you've got to incorporate that enterprise storage into a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy, whether it be a small entity or whether it be the largest global Fortune 500s in the world.
Yeah, and what are the component parts of that? You talked about InfiniSafe. There are several different components that come together to create the holistic strategy because that's the thing is you need a holistic strategy for security. I remember years ago I heard an excellent presenter in Malaysia, an Indian gentleman who had a very lyrical voice, and he had this line. He said, "So basically, what I'm trying to say, lunch is not a food." And what he meant was that lunch is an event at which you have any number of kinds of food, but lunch itself is not a food. And his point was that security is not a product, it's not a thing, it's an array. There are many different components that go into that. So when you talk about storage, you're right. I mean, you have to do all the usual things, change your passwords, be very vigilant about emails from sources you don't know. All that kind of stuff is just table stakes basically. But when you talk about the storage, I mean, that is the gold. Like that's the data that they want to get access to, that they want to hold ransom. What are the different things you can do in that storage environment to protect people's data?
So first of all, you need to expect the cyber criminals to attack both your primary storage and
Hmm.
your backup, archive, and data replication, right? You do data replication as primarily for disaster, right? Fires in data centers, flooding, earthquakes, whatever is those natural events. So you want to make sure that you replicate the data. Well, guess what? They know you've replicated the data. They're technically sophisticated. So they know you have primary data on site, your backup data, you archive often, right? Older materials could be archived. And then, of course, your replicas that are used for disaster recovery. All those elements are a huge attack service for the cyber criminals to go after that. Lots of things for them to look at. So the elements you want to integrate are several fold. So let's talk a little about our industry acclaimed InfiniSafe cyber technology. So first of all, you want to create immutable snapshots. Immutable snapshots are non-changeable, non-deletable.
Hmm.
Okay, so once you've created them, they are permanent and they can't be changed even by your storage administrators. They are just permanent. A sidebar, by the way, is that immutable snapshots in most countries in the world are now admissible as court evidence. So you don't bring
Really?
in the stack of tax returns anymore if you're in some sort of tax litigation. You bring in digital assets, which are immutable snapshots of all of your tax and corporate information from a financial side to talk about it in court. So immutable snapshots cannot be deleted. Huge use in the cyber side. Secondary side is in legal. Okay, you also want to create, after the immutable snapshot, a logical air gap. You want to create a gap between the data itself and the management plane. Yes, you want all of the management security. Okay, you want to make sure their passwords are there. You want to have multi-step password protection. That said, what if the admin is in league with the cyber criminals?
Right.
That happens, right? I mean, we've all seen the movie of the bank job, and guess what? The manager of the bank was in on the deal.
Right.
And it comes out when Perry Mason or some other attorney has them up on there at the end of the show, and oh, yes, okay, I let the criminals in. So you want to make sure you separate the management plane and the data plane. Okay. You want to make sure that if you have an attack, you can create a fenced environment. In order for you to recover data, you want to get to what's called a known good copy. And because cyber attacks are all done surreptitiously, they're not running around saying and beating their chests like King Kong and Godzilla, going, hey, guess what? I'm going to attack your secondary storage, then I'm going to attack your backups, then I'm going to attack your primary. It's all done surreptitiously. The ultimate secret agent. So you could be taking immutable snapshots when you've actually had malware or ransomware on your storage. So you
Right.
want to get to a known good copy. So you have all these snapshots, and of course, you'll start with the most recent. You put it in a fenced forensic environment. That way, you keep it separate from the data, right? You keep that copy and stick it in that fenced forensic environment so that you can analyze it. Okay. Now, you also want to make sure that once you've got a known good copy, you can recover it easily and very quickly. So, as an example, with our InfiniSafe technology, we guarantee in writing that on primary storage, no matter how many petabytes, I didn't just say gigabytes or megabytes, no matter how many petabytes you have, we will recover that snapshot in 1 minute or less. On
Wow.
backup, we have a purpose-built backup appliance that's designed to, a storage device specifically for backup workloads. There, it's 20 minutes or less. That is the fastest in the industry. Remember, it's bad enough you've had an attack. You still have to find that known good copy. That could take, it could be immediate. It could take an hour. It could take 3 hours, right? Because every time a copy is bad, you pull it out of the fence forensic and stick another one in. Okay.
Mm.
So, but once you've got that known good copy, you want it to be as rapid as possible. Now, at the higher level, you want to make sure that you can integrate with other cybersecurity technology. So if you look at a global Fortune 500, they have data center wide cybersecurity software, both SIM and SOAR. You want to integrate with that. So if they see an attack, something like Microsoft Sentinel or IBM QRadar, that if they see an attack, you can automatically start doing things on the storage side. You can automate that whole process. Many of the larger enterprises have a security operations center. Same thing. If security operations center sees something, you want to automatically interface with your storage technology, have your storage start doing things. You don't
Hmm.
wait for a text, you don't wait for an email, you don't wait for a phone call. These systems can be automated through APIs so that the data center wide security operations center or your data center wide cybersecurity packages, all of which usually don't look at storage. So
Hmm.
have them integrate with the storage, and the storage, in our case with InfiniSafe, can natively start taking action, taking snapshots. You also can use AI technology for good. Yes, the cyber criminals are using it for bad to attack you, but you can use AI and ML technology on storage. It's part of our InfiniSafe technology. It's the only element of InfiniSafe that's optional. All the rest is standard. When you
Hmm.
buy our storage systems, you just get all our cyber software and it's included in the price. So you don't have to pay extra for it. But the one thing that is extra is what we call cyber detection. And what you can do there, cyber detection can be used, A, in the fenced forensic environment to scan to make sure things are good. All right. Or you could have it as a storage warning system. You could scan every other Thursday. You could scan every day. You could scan 3 days a week. And if they detect something, then through an API, you could automatically send a message from the storage side now into data center wide cybersecurity software or into the SOC. So those
Hmm.
6 elements, 5 of which are included for free at no charge, and one of which we do charge for the cyber detection, are the 6 key things you need to have storage seamlessly integrate and be of value in helping protect your most valuable corporate asset, your enterprise data sets.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the cool things about AI, you get right down to brass tacks, it's pattern matching is really what these AI tools are doing. These solutions, we design models to look for patterns, to absorb patterns and learn over time. That's a very key part of the whole strategy here. And to look for anomalies, look for strange behavioral patterns. People who are logging in at strange times, taking inordinate amounts of data or activity that's just not normal. So you get a baseline, you understand what the baseline is, and of course it changes, and you watch out for what's not normal. The one real bugger I've heard in these environments is these sneaky bastards get in and they sit for even longer than a year because typically the clock will reset at 1 year and like, okay, well, anything that's in there now, we're going to assume is okay. And that's very dangerous, right? What do you recommend for watching out for those kinds of infections, if you will, or viruses that linger and wait for more than 12 months before triggering some action?
Well, again, that's part of the value of doing the cyber detection scanning. You're going to
Hmm.
see that behavior, for example, the encryption of data, which is what's used to hold it for ransom, or you'll see data being destroyed out of nowhere, not
Hmm.
because you're going in and dragging the file to the trash and deleting it, right? Which you can do on servers just like you can on your laptop at home, same concept, but you'll see anomalous erasures. You'll see anomalous encryption, right? You have certain data sets you're encrypting for legal issues, for security issues, and all of a sudden data that shouldn't be encrypted, or that whole array, array number 4, which never had any encrypted, all of a sudden things are encrypting. So having that InfiniSafe cyber detection to scan the storage regularly can help you as its own early warning system so that you don't end up in that situation. You assume everything is safe after a year. So you want to
Right.
make sure that you're taking a very holistic view of your storage environment, okay, and making sure again that it's an integral part. And you are right, most cyber attacks are not immediate. The average dwell time used to be 180 days before the attack was launched. Now it's gone down to 20 to 30 days, but still it's sitting there for 20 to 30 days before they press the button and say, okay, now we want to hold DM radio for ransom. That's how it
Right.
works. So, and again, in the example you gave, it's even longer. It's a full year. So sometimes the attacks are immediate, but a lot of times the attacks, they lie in wait and wait till it is the right time
Hmm.
to launch the attack and ask for the ransomware. Obviously, in the malware case, they're destroying data on a continual basis. And once the data is destroyed, especially if they do it on both your backup copies and your primary storage, now the data is gone and you have to basically resurrect the data from scratch, which is why it can be so expensive. And in fact, in the United States, if you do have a cyber attack and you're publicly traded, you have to legally report on it. In fact, one
Right.
publicly traded company a couple of years ago, right after the regulations came out, their cyber attack cost them, not just counting the ransom, about 25 million. Another one, they took a financial reserve against the cyber attack of over $1 billion US, and they had to publicly file that. So cyber attacks can be small, but they can also be huge, right? So
Hmm.
you need to make sure. I mean, if you think about it, the cost of cyber security, okay, all in, which includes both paying the ransom, which thank God is going down. But you know what? Don't be surprised if 2 years from now we're talking again and you go, Eric, 2 years ago I had you and ransomware was going down. Now it's going back up. Remember, the use of AI technology is very sophisticated. So for
Mm.
everything enterprise are using it in-house, their security systems, what they're doing with their logistics, their supply chain, their financial records. You don't think the cyber criminals are trying to hone the AI to do even more evil? So, I do think this is kind of a pendulum, if you will. It's a wave going up and down and back and forth. So in a couple of years, it could be back up again. The good thing is more companies are realizing that having their enterprise cyber storage as part of their cybersecurity strategy is helping you close one of those doors or keep it mostly shut, if you will. And that's why
Right.
it's important to integrate storage into a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy.
Yeah, and we only got about a minute left in the segment, but agentic AI has all the headlines now. You're hearing about OpenClaw and OpenAI hired the guy who came up with OpenClaw, and one of the real issues around that is security, because if you let this thing go and do stuff in your environment, it'll do things that you didn't expect. What can you say in 30 seconds about watching out for the use of AI that could compromise your systems?
Well, you need to remember anything that's AI that's open source, you just compromise your systems. It's open source. So that
Right.
means anything you do, all your financial data, if you use something that's open source, you just put it out publicly. So you want to use private LLMs and SLMs and vector databases, nothing that's public. You want to make sure you're monitoring it. And you want to make sure that you treat AI as another app. AI is
Hmm.
an application. So if
Right.
you're going to cyber protect your SAP, your Oracle, your Mongo, your Cassandra, your ERP systems, your this system or that system. AI is another application, and it can attack that just the way it can attack your favorite database. So you need to make sure that AI is included as one of the workloads and applications that you are implementing cybersecurity on.
That's exactly right. Well, folks, look this gentleman up online. Eric Herzog, always fun to talk to you. Don't pay the ransom demand. After a ransomware attack, look up that article on Forbes. We'll be right back. You're listening to DM Radio.